reasonable. Recording. There it is. So do you we figured out that it exported to a WPA file or whatever, or
It's MP4. MP4, and I'll just strip the audio so you can podcast it.
Are we going to get something like 40 minutes in that says that our free...
No, we're on Gideon's wife's paid account.
Nice.
Yeah, that's how I roll.
Come here, bud.
Stealing
Here,
stuff.
you guys want to see my dog? Come here, Bo. Come here. Come here. Sit. Sit.
Is it a pit bull?
No, he's like a
vanilla lab.
Albino lab. Bo. 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 Anyway, he's not being cooperative. Alrighty then. My wife might murder me. I did finish the rest of the lime vodka right now making it. Oh. Yeah.
What did you say? You never told me. Well, I'll just wait. You can tell us.
Holy shit. Virginia just issued a stay-at-home order through June 10th.
That is a long time.
My wife, who, if you don't know, Adam, works with college students, was having a meeting today talking about what they might do if college students don't come back in the fall.
Oh my.
Now, there's no indication yet that that's what universities are trying to do, but they're trying to be prepared for it just in case.
No, I got an email. Well, I forwarded you guys the email saying the bar convention was still on. And I think we should start with Jeremy's empty chair.
Let's do
it.
So we can say, where's Jeremy? Like all the old school.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, man, where's Jeremy? Where's Jeremy? I don't know, dude. Yeah.
Yep. There we go.
Wait, did he come back? Uh-oh. Hey, Kurt.
Star going.
Kurt, for some reason, I no longer manage Lawyers on the Rocks.
What are you talking about, dude?
I'm telling you.
Should we tell him now? Michael McGill is the new producer. He's Canadian.
Let's tell him live on the air. You're fired.
Oh, wait. Never mind. I got it.
Had to make a lot of hard choices during the COVID-19 crisis, Gideon, and
I'm being downsized.
We have to let you go.
What the?
We're cutting you back. We're cutting you back to 1 day every 2 weeks.
Are we on?
Is everyone getting the public safety message?
In 2 minutes. You're gonna walk right through it.
No. What public safety?
Blowing up.
Oh, yeah, mine is too.
Okay, I'm begging.
Must be Baltimore City.
What title do we want to add to this? LOTR live. What's today?
30th.
March 30th.
Choose your own adventure drink on the socially distant Zoom podcast.
I didn't write all that. It's too late.
Fair enough.
What are you drinking today, Kurt?
Are we on?
We are live, guys.
We've been live.
Like I said, what are you drinking today, Kurt?
Just after our public safety message, everyone.
I'm drinking a Moscow Mule, folks. It's Absolute vodka with lime and a smoked ginger ale. Smoked ginger ale. Cool. It's Fever Tree smoked ginger ale. It's quite tasty.
Sativa or indica?
We'll talk about that offline. Thanks.
How's the weather in the chopper there, Kurt?
Yeah, it's a little breezy, but we're getting on.
How's that? 695 is good though, huh? Their chopper, Dan.
How's that truly treating you?
It's good, man. When you drink as much as I've been drinking lately, you gotta watch the calories a little bit. We're in this for the long haul.
So I have a special bottle that I've been holding on to. Well, I don't know how special it is. It's new for me. Haven't tried it yet. I've been wanting to try it for a while. This is the 10-year Port Charlotte from Bruichladdich. It's a heavily peated Islay Scotch. Probably not for the faint of heart, I would guess, but I'll let you know what I think in a bit.
So one of our listeners wants to know if Jeremy is remoting in from Boca.
100%. I'm drinking Ransom Gin because we are all stuck, and I'm waiting for someone to pay my damn ransom to get me out, and I always talk about it on the show. And I'm drinking out of my wife's outside sippy cup, Real Housewives of Baltimore. It's about 5 minutes before we started. She was behind me doing landscaping, and it would have looked real messed up for anybody watching, all 17 of you, to see Shantae landscaping with this hat on and this shirt, man. So Gin Club Soda and Lime.
So one of our viewers is telling me we're frozen. Are we frozen, or is it like? Are we moving?
You're frozen. Everyone else seems to be fine.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's the Baltimore City Wi-Fi that's the problem. That's
I think it's the ball. How far are you from your router?
I have the FiOS.
I got like extenders and all kinds of shit. Can you hear
Adam's
me?
in a bunker. Oh. He is broadcasting from the bunker.
You're moving now. I'm not sure what's going on there, brother. Yeah.
He never stops moving. This episode is sponsored to you by Baltimore City Meth and Fentanyl. Elevator move in both directions all the time.
Oh, we got requests for Pete. We got all kinds of there's like 3 people watching right now. It's amazing.
Monday day drinking, baby.
Woo! Since you guys asked, it's a lemon truly, but I got one in the holster here. We're going orange when this thing gets wild.
All right. So, first things first, right? So there was an order that came out this morning that kind of set everybody into a tailspin. Governor Hogan, and this was not on our show notes or our pre-recorded stuff, but Governor Hogan issued a stay-at-home order. When he said it in the press conference, after I went back and I pulled the text of the order, my opinion was that it didn't quite line up with all of the information that was portrayed in the in his press conference. It wasn't quite as restrictive as what he had made it out to be. Does anybody else have any thoughts after reviewing that order as to what it actually says versus like he said stay at home and don't go anywhere, and what does it actually say?
I don't think it changed anything for us. We are still essential. We were essential before. We're essential oils now. You
look very essential, Jeremy.
100%. I would love to roll in a court like this with a stogie. No, I don't think it changed anything for us. I think that the part of small businesses doing their best to reduce their size and operation sort of made sense to me. But, if anything, I don't think it changed much for us at all, candidly. I mean, courts are still closed. No one's meeting with clients. Going to jail is really non-existent for most of us right now. It's not like there's a ton of people getting arrested. And even the people that are, I think they have to be somewhat understanding. And that's it. I mean, the only question is how to communicate with your clients. I don't think the order changed much, at least on our end, maybe on Adam's end,
No, Adam? my initial thought when I saw it was, oh, fuck.
That was very, very succinct.
I feel like we're on Pardon the Interruption. You guys remember that show on ESPN? We look like Pardon the Interruption.
It's still on.
Can Gideon X us out? Like if we don't answer the questions right? We could just go get booted off.
I actually probably can. I can just kill your video.
Where the points don't matter.
I mean, Kurt is definitely like the beat writer from like some central PA newspaper, And 100%. Jeremy is definitely phoning in. It's not Miami. It's like Fort Lauderdale, maybe Hollywood, Florida, like the beat writer in Hollywood, Florida.
Kurt, you should put the shades
Miami
back on.
Times Herald.
Put the shades back on and go Top Gun on us.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just don't buzz the tower. Adam is -4 right now for drinking seltzer anyway. I mean, that's definitely a day drink. But if we had scores between his hat and his seltzer and then his short sleeve
hoodie, sweatshirt, trucker cap, drinking Trulies in my basement. Definitely some weird prepper shit going on.
The FBI would be at your house if you had a manifesto. Like if you wrote one haiku right now, I'd have to do a threat assessment. And I got an FBI neighbor that lives 2 doors down that doesn't. Yeah. So you might as well just come to my house and we'll make sure you're not a white supremacist.
They already took my guns away earlier.
Jeremy Gabriel just asked in the chat if your hat is made out of tortilla chips and if there's salsa in the rim.
Okay. Yes and yes, but they are lime tortilla chips if you can't see the hint of green, okay? They are binitos. And then as far as the salsa is concerned, it's extra chunky. We both know that. Tell them to come over after the show.
All right, Kurt, what's our first topic?
I'm also Gideon's wearing pants. That's the other thing I feel very uncomfortable about right
0% chance. Oh.
So one of the things we wanted to know is if you're out and you have coronavirus or don't have coronavirus and you cough on someone, can you be charged with a crime? So we have two different stories. One about a New Jersey man, unlike Florida man. New Jersey man was charged with exploiting people's fears by deliberately coughing on supermarket worker while claiming that he had the coronavirus. George Falcone, sounds like he's from New Jersey.
That's a Jersey name. It's like Sopranos season 2.
So Jersey. He's been charged with making terroristic threats in a branch of Wegmans in Manalapan, New Jersey on Sunday night.
Buddy, Manalapan.
Whatever. I'm not a Jersey guy. They said the employee by the store asked him to step away from the prepared foods while she was covering them up, and then he leaned in towards her, coughed on her, laughed, and said he had coronavirus. He went on to tell two other employees that they were lucky to have jobs, refused to identify himself when approached by police. He was charged exploiting people's fears and creating panic during a pandemic emergency is reprehensible, said Monmouth County prosecutor. In times like these, we need to pull together instead of committing acts to further divide us. Anyway, they charged the guy.
He was lucky to not get punched at the supermarket, number one. And as I've said on 2 prior episodes, if anybody punches anybody for coughing on them at the supermarket or doing anything like this that's mildly terrorist, I will represent them for free. I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying it's pro bono.
So the second story is a little bit more interesting. And I'll refrain from disclosing some of my personal information about it, but the Biogen company, they did presentations at the TED Talk that was in Massachusetts, which was the progenitor for the Massachusetts COVID outbreak. According to the LA Times, Jia Li, a Chinese citizen living in Massachusetts, became ill with coronavirus symptoms and was denied testing when she went to a hospital in Massachusetts. The newspaper said she decided to fly to China through LA and took fever-reducing medications before boarding the plane and lied to flight attendants. She's now hospitalized. According to Chinese law, could face up to 3 years in jail or detention with forced labor and up to 7 years in prison. What?
Sounds fair.
That sentence doesn't even make any sense.
Sounds fair.
She could face 3 years of imprisonment or detention with possible forced labor or up to 7 years in jail. According to
is definitely something that should be utilized during this circumstance.
So she got a.
You get a flyby there, Kurt? Stopper Dan get a flyby?
Permission to buzz the tower.
This is exactly why teleworking does not work for lawyers. Like, we've had my wife landscaping, my kid there, your kid's there. This is how much work is being done at home by lawyers right now.
Oh my God! According to Chinese media, she's being treated. Everyone else on the flight also tested positive. They're very nice people. I hope they're being treated well in China. Yeah, I got nothing. I don't know, guys. What do you got?
What are we talking about here? Assault charges? I mean, if we can be serious for a minute, Jeremy. I mean,
I'm super serious. That's young Adam Crandall right there. Look how that serious face. That's my serious face.
I mean, that's basically what I still look like.
I mean, essentially, it's just like, first of all, can I get some ketchup?
No.
I mean, so look, my whole take on this is, and I saw a video of someone actually getting punched after spitting. And if you are spitting on food, and we know we're short on food, that's a giant problem for me. And if you end up causing a situation, I tell people this all the time, this is not even unintended consequences. These are intended consequences. If you're out there causing trouble, no different than there were a lot of people during the uprising in Baltimore that were out there to cause trouble. There were a lot of really wonderful people trying to affect social change. And then there were people out there for no reason but to harm people and or harm property. And this is the same sort of thing for me. So, you know, I'm not a big fan of people going out there. There's no social justice issue here to be had. And there are a lot of people doing a lot of good work to make sure that people that need food and need services are out there doing it. So if you're going to go out there spitting on food or doing something to produce or doing something to produce, that sounds I see all these people buying cucumbers.
Big melon.
And, like, be careful with the cucumber.
Hey, man, if you can't go out and get batteries, you got to figure out something.
It's definitely a non-GMO dildo. That's what you're saying.
All right. So in this week's episode of I Can't Believe It's Not Baltimore, and by the way, I just want to say, like, we have really fallen by the wayside. The COVID crisis has really taken us far away. We haven't done I Can't Believe It's Not Baltimore in 3 of these COVID episodes. Until you provided this, and I'm going to give you the shout out for this one. Charles County man was arrested by the Charles County Sheriff's Department for violating Larry Hogan's emergency order that people may not gather larger in groups of 10. According to the Sheriff's Office, Sean Marshall Myers hosted a gathering of approximately 60 people for a bonfire in Luke's Lane in Hughesville. He repeatedly refused orders to disperse. He was arrested, charged, according to a statement. It is believed to be the first arrest in the state for a group size disobeying the governor's order. It was, in fact, the second time they had broken up a party at his place.
The night before, Sean Marshall Mathers, M&M of Charles County, bonfire with 60 people there.
What do we so here's my question. First of all, it's a bonfire, so they're already inherently outside. I mean, let's just put on our defense attorney hats here, Jeremy, and like see what we can do to work through this problem. So they're outside. What if they have like sticks and they're 6 feet away from each other, right? And they're not really gathered in groups of 10, but they're spread out over an acre, 2 acres,
that sounds
3
like
acres.
A campfire at your house.
Might be. I'm just saying.
No,
hypothetically,
some cuddling. There's some COVID cuddling going on right there. Look, the cops went to his place the night before and told him to break it up. And then they went there that night a second time and told him to break it up. I understand freedom of association, but at that point, if you have 60 people there and any of them are sick, and then they spread out, look at Louisiana right now, 3,500 sick because you have people going to mega churches. You know, I'm not advocating not going to church or not going to synagogue, but if you can live stream at home and keep other people safe, then why wouldn't you?
So,
but in this situation, you're right. You're not, like, it seems silly to say this normally, but if one person gets it and you have 60 people there, how many people down in La Plata where they have one hospital where they can infect?
So what if he could make an argument, and obviously, like, where people live might factor into this, but what if he could make some sort of argument to say that, like, they were grouping together as a whole community and they were just going to stay together as a community for the entirety of the virus? Like,
ooh, are we going cult defense? Is that what we're going
I mean, sort of. So for instance, like my wife and I, the girls have some friends who live 3 doors down, and we're basically just wives? What?
I mean, for this example, which of your wives are we talking about?
Number one. Number one.
All right.
Anyway, but we're basically quarantining together so that our kids can play together and we can have people to talk to, right? So what can we do with that?
How about this? How about a better defense is I didn't know 60 people were coming over to my house. I invited 5 people over to my house, and they invited 5, and they invited 5. That
sounds like a Michelle Nachman defense right there.
Yeah, right.
Is that the
or like the
forgiveness, not permission?
No, how about you're a senior in high school and you invite like 1 of 2 of your friends over. Oh, my parents are gone for the weekend, and then 60 people show up at your house, and they just trash the place, right? I mean, I think the police. Did
you just literally use the plot from Weird Science as your? But Adam's not laughing because that's another 80s movie.
Hasn't seen it.
So, but how about this? What is the state's attorney's office going to have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt in a court to show that he intentionally violated
nothing? Because they're going to dismiss this case. They're trying to make a point by charging him publicly to tell everyone else they're taking it seriously. That guy's not going to go to court. They'll either abate it.
You think?
Or I don't think it's going to be taken that seriously unless things start getting really out of control and then we start ending up with, show me your papers.
Well, it's funny. That's a good transition to our next story. I
already feel like that, hold on.
I'm going to jump around.
The rules entering the courthouse, which we haven't discussed, where the bailiffs will ask you a series of questions, like choose your own adventure before entering. They will ask you if you've had a fever, if you felt sick, all questions that are based on self-reporting and honesty.
Jeremy's like, I feel like that every day, like when I'm healthy.
Like, have you had a fever? Yeah, I'm on fire. By the way, just so everyone knows, this was an outfit change. My first outfit was not deemed to be acceptable by the other members of the podcast.
That's not true. You made that decision by yourself.
No, you guys are like producers of porn. You were like, you're not skinny enough. You're not dressed pretty enough for this.
All we wanted you to do was move the camera down. That's it. That's all we said. And you did. Yeah, and then you were like, oh, I don't look good enough. You guys have headphones on. He's got a hat. You had to go get a hat. Come on. Tell the truth here, Jeremy. This is a court of law. Ours on the rock.
Exactly.
So just to circle back to this story about the Charles County guy, does this fancy software allow us to post a picture of him? Because I feel like much like us, we broke the Tiger King story.
He was a Tiger Prince when we broke it.
We broke it.
Here, I'll pull it up.
And the photo was really part of the whole experience. And I feel like if you guys haven't seen the picture of the Charles County man.
I got it. I'm pulling it up right now, and I'm gonna screen share. So we're gonna work through this as best we can, folks, with our technological challenges.
It'll be worth it.
By the way, listener Tom
Cole. Adam in that bunker. Adam, wait. Right there, buddy.
I was hoping for some more dead air while we sort through this.
Nope. I got
Awkward
it. Hold on.
As long as
there we go.
Come up, we're good.
All right. Did that work? Do we? Oh, wait, not yet. Share. Hey, there we go, fellas. There he is.
There he is.
Wow, that's special.
So, the important thing is
Tiger King's 3 husbands.
Bonfire Bobby right there.
Tiger King's 3 husbands. Okay. All right. So we have to circle back on this, right? Because Adam touched on something very, very, very important. We definitely were ahead of the curve on the Tiger King, but I must admit, until I watched it, like as crazy as it was, we talked about that shit for like 3 episodes a year and a half ago. And as crazy as it was, the Netflix visual odyssey,
we had no idea,
blows it away. Blows it away. Blows it away.
How bad you want a client like that? I mean, that's the client you don't want actually, because that dude, I assure you, especially being on meth, is definitely calling you at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 4 in the morning, 3 in the morning. Why didn't you answer the phone? Page-long email. I don't know what's going on. I got 200 line cups. I'm not available for you right now. Like, I could only imagine representing him. His lawyer was hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
His lawyer was like a cartoon lawyer, like suspenders and pants pulled up to his breasts. And like, I just told him, I asked him if he had any more copies.
So not a fat guy party shirt and a straw hat?
No, but it was that.
So speaking of, I'd like to do a new segment. And this sort of came as an inspired topic suggestion of what would a lawyer do. This came from Jeremy. So this is your segment, really. But
Jeremy, thanks.
I rephrased it, Adam. I rephrased it as WWJD. What would Jeremy do?
Ooh.
These are not going to be good answers.
And so what would Jeremy do with his student loan payments that are due in a couple of weeks?
Fuck them.
What would Jeremy do?
I continued paying him. I did continue paying him.
What would Jeremy do if he's faced with eviction?
Fuck it. They stopped him. The courts all stopped him, so fuck it.
What is Jeremy going to do about any leases?
Honestly, with a commercial lease, fuck it. Act of God, baby. And if they were dumb enough to put that in your commercial lease, act of God, fuck them.
Mortgages?
God, fuck your landlord. Mortgages? Oh, definitely fuck the banks. This is super easy. This now it's starting to feel like PTI. Throw a couple more. Like Deion Sanders over here.
So I had to have this conversation with a client the other day who was engaged in a situation with a potential restraining order for some business related activities. And I said, there's no courts that can hear this right now. Like the courts are closed. There are no restraining orders.
Come out of jest. I mean,
like domestic violence, even so you and I saw, so this was new as of yesterday, temporary protective orders got punted. They're not hearing temporary protective orders.
Explain the process, which is if the courts are closed, then you go to a commissioner who is not a judge and not a lawyer, an employee of the county, and then you get an interim protective order. That interim protective order will last until the next business day. or a couple of days later, usually, over a weekend, and you'll see a judge to get a temporary protective order, and then 7 days later, you'll have a final protective order. So right now, they are punting everything after the interim until after May 1st, which is interesting. So all of my quasi-ridiculous answers that I just gave about, what would I do, are because all counties, the sheriff's office handles all the evictions, right? So they go through the courts, and then they hit the sheriff's office. They've stopped evictions. As far as commercial tenants, most of the large landlords, right, Kurt, have basically said, we're either going to tack this month on the end of your lease, we're going to push your lease, or there has to be some level of mitigation, right? Because most landlords don't want to lose tenants, and no one's evicting anybody. So some of it's also a little bit of like, well, the companies have to work with you because there's no current remedy for them to go into court and do anything about it.
So there's a caveat to that, though, because the courts, the judiciary.
By the way, it's getting hot. Need some suntan lotion out here.
Listener Peter wants to know why you look like Joe Pesci from Lethal Weapon 4. I don't think that was a compliment.
It was not a compliment. It was a very good question. Asking him why he looks like Chris Rock. Keep going.
So the judiciary has only punted on residential evictions and halted residential evictions. They have not halted commercial evictions, but there are no judges. There are no judges that can get you into court for it. Now, the interesting component of that is that you are theoretically permitted self-help in the state of Maryland for a commercial lease. Now, would I advise that? No. Do I think that that's the best course of action for a commercial landlord? No. But is it theoretically possible?
I mean, look, some of this stuff is human being stuff. If you have a good tenant, that's been
lawyers.
Years.
We're lawyers. We're not human beings.
But the flip side of that coin is, as lawyers, what's the cost of litigation? So if you have a restaurant, for instance, right, that is suffering and isn't paying rent, if you put them out, what necessarily do you gain from that if you're not going to be able to put another tenant in? So the cost of litigating to get them out, you have to have another person to come in to pay rent. That's the entire point of it. So I think a lot of people are probably being a little bit more patient with their clients and with bills. I have someone, for instance, that owes me money that reached out to me today and said, Jeremy, I'm quarantined. I haven't been to work and I have more time on the bill. Well, what am I going to say? I mean, it's not even a choice. Of course I'm going to say yes.
So here's one from listener Gustavo wants to know, how do you get a marriage license while the courts are shut down?
Call Jeremy.
Well, the clerk's office is still open. So if you had an attorney that could marry you.
Well, I know that part, but they have to get the license. So I've done a couple of consults.
To appear.
Yeah, I've done a couple of consults here in the past week where the first step, step one is after, getting a box is to get married.
I think it comes before the box.
Oh.
In Christianity, it comes before the box.
Oh, yeah.
Before you.
But I mean,
you can't get in. You can't get married.
You can't get a marriage license, right?
No, I mean, a rabbi like me, obviously an online rabbi, a faux rabbi, can do the ceremony, but legally you couldn't be married. Not in the state of Maryland.
Well, can you apply? Do you have to apply? I mean, I don't know the mechanics of this. Do you have to apply for a marriage license in person?
I think so.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe one of our listeners.
Conceivably, if you applied for a protective order, it could get you in the courthouse. And then once you're in the courthouse,
just into the commissioner's office, and that's district court, not circuit court.
I'm trying to figure out a way to weeble.
Your ordained rabbi could get into the courthouse.
So I'm wearing my yarmulke. I could get in.
And then you could also marry them via Skype.
Oh, I wasn't worried about that.
Yeah, I mean, I can marry someone anywhere. Adam knows that. Through the detention center glass, just put the hands up. In prison, in front of prison paintings. I'm here. I'm your man.
All right. Next topic. So I wanted to talk about this, but this has been like, how do you guys, so that is a really good question. Okay. So one of the questions from listener Peter was, how do you guys feel about COVID inmates how do you feel about inmates being let out of prison due to COVID-19?
Can I start with that one?
Sure.
So I had a really cool conversation with an unnamed District Court of Maryland judge yesterday. And what this judge was saying to me was that the judges were being asked, and I was really glad that this was going on, to re-review their bails, essentially to go back in time and to look at the cases in which they've denied bail, isn't held without bail, given a financial bail, which occurs a whole lot less frequently now that that was prohibitive, meaning you don't have the money to get out, and to re-review these. And I was really happy that that process was going on. And that was going on even with judges not at the courthouse. So, you know, as part of that question, the first thing you have to go to is the judiciary being proactive about letting people out? I have 3 bail reviews tomorrow morning. That should tell you something. I mean, in Baltimore City Circuit Court, it's undeniably difficult to get a bail review. Right now, it seems pretty easy, which is wonderful. In Baltimore County, it's always been a fairly easy process to file a habeas petition, which is, you know, bring the body, or which is, I don't want to say a ruse, but is a ruse to a second bail review. But a lot of these are re-reviews. They're not initial bail reviews. And so to answer Peter's question, you know, I have some very strong opinions on the fact that I don't think that most of these prisons are not equipped. You know, they're not well ventilated. They have people breathing the same air for, you know, same with the immigration detention facilities, which in Howard County right now is a huge issue. They did a protest yesterday in Howard County, which was a sit-in in vehicles. Did you see that, Adam? With posters on the cars and everyone saying, let everyone out, let everyone out, let everyone out. So, I mean, there's a huge push right now to not make this a health hazard because, come on, I mean, any of these prisons are just chock full of people that have nowhere to go. They can't escape from it. And candidly, prison is like the land of people with pre-existing health conditions. Adam?
Well,
look,
prison creates diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure.
You know, I have kind of mixed, you know, I think I'm a little bit mixed on the issue, right? I mean, obviously, I think nonviolent offenders, like a lot of immigration detainees, you know, should probably be released. I mean, but, you know, to just empty out the jails and prisons, I don't know. I think I'm a little hesitant to go that far.
From what I'm hearing, we're not talking about murder cases, attempted murder cases. Right. A lot of what we're talking about are, look, in Baltimore City, in Baltimore County, the people with nonviolent offenses are being released anyway, okay? Right. What we're talking about are these borderline cases. First time handgun offenders. So you're in a car, there might be drugs in the car, there's a gun in the car, but they have no record. So you start going, okay, are they a giant drug dealer? Are they a little drug dealer? Are they someone who just had a gun and have a drug problem? Like where are we on that?
This is the most Jeremy discussion in the history of the universe.
I mean, that's my job. But I think a lot of these are people that are the borderline violent, nonviolent, and those are the people. I know the public defender's office put a ton of people with violent crimes in for bail reviews, and I'm not upset with them about it. I mean, to some degree, you have to take your tries in advocating for your client. But the flip side of that coin is, I think a lot of the people we're actually getting released during the COVID crisis are people that are really on that borderline, or people, for instance, that have district court violations of probation. Circuit court violations of probation. Like you might have been found guilty of a traffic offense or a low-level misdemeanor or something that's nonviolent. We've been sitting on you for a little bit. We're going to get you in. We're going to get you out.
So let me ask the counter question to that right now. Let me ask you the counter question to that, though. So as we saw, there was a newspaper article that was posted earlier today that said that 2 DPSCS employees have tested positive as well as 1 inmate. So does that change the analysis now? And are folks better off, rather than spreading the coronavirus, are they better off being held in the detention facility? And is there an argument to be made for that?
Sardines. I mean, they're in there like sardines. People are packed into these places like sardines. So I don't know. It's very arbitrary and capricious as to who should get out. But obviously as you know, an attorney, I know everyone's not going to get out, but at what point do you draw that line? But do you want to be back in there like sardines? And you haven't even touched upon another point, which is this a health hazard for the workers? We already have people at Booking, MTC, JCI, at pretty much every facility that's state-run working double shifts, working 80-hour weeks, which is not good for a human being to work anyway. And then you bring COVID into it, and you're putting those people at risk. So, I mean, lessening the number of inmates and letting some of the parole stuff, letting some of the bail stuff out, you know, it makes sense to me because you're putting so many people at risk. You can also do home monitoring, by the way, GPS monitoring. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to quell this problem with a little bit of the moolah.
We're all going to be on home monitoring before this thing is over with.
Yeah, I mean, there was and we didn't clip this article for talking about, but the government is monitoring our cell phone data to see where people are moving and when they're moving and what areas they're moving in, and I guess they're bulk aggregating the data, so it's anonymized, hopefully, maybe, possibly. And we'll get into the Fourth Amendment issue that's come up recently as well. Our next topic, an Austin company, although since it posted yesterday, I don't know whether or not they're still doing it. An Austin company is trying to dock paychecks for anyone receiving stimulus checks. While Congress was working out the details on a bill that would provide Americans with stimulus checks, at least one Austin company was looking for ways to save payroll. The form says they are preemptively deducting from our checks the numbers based on what they're anticipating the government relief fund to be.
Which they can calculate correctly because they know how much money the employees are making.
Yep. So they're going to cut their paychecks. They also laid off a quarter of their workforce this week. They believe the salary cuts is a way to meet payroll, but the company hadn't explored all the options before making a knee-jerk response.
Master blaster. This is so messed up.
Yeah, so I mean, this is like completely
we would never dream
illegal.
Of doing this to our clients or
completely.
our employees. I mean, it's absurd.
It violates multiple federal laws right off the top of my head that I could think of. It violates state laws.
Yeah, but you know what? Hobby Lobby is no different. There are a bunch of companies that may not be digging into your stimulus checks, but are doing the exact same thing, putting their employees in danger, challenging their money, challenging their benefits. I mean, none of this is good. And by the way, that's definitely Master Blaster behind me. That's me and Kurt last Halloween. Anyone can see our photos. That's me and Kurt. Kurt is obviously the one with the mask on. I'm sitting on his shoulders.
You actually go into Baby Bjorn. You don't go on my shoulders. Come on, man.
Well, when it was Halloween, we went like full on Master Blaster. I just feel like so many business owners, Kurt, and obviously you handle a lot of the business, the transaction work for our firm, but it just seems off to me that businesses are so brazen about telling their employees to fuck off in various ways. And I feel like it's going to come around to bite them. And, we've had clients reach out to us and ask us some of these questions and ask us what we're doing. And we're doing our best to be good to our employees and to make sure that, that we're moving forward and taking care of them.
I don't know if I was reading the same article you actually have in the notes, Kurt, but the one that I was reading about this same topic, they interviewed another woman who said she worked for a national food chain who was talking about doing the same thing. And they were like, it might be the same company, but we don't know. But like, it's again, unbelievable that companies would, well, actually what I was going to say is that especially a company like a national food chain, the turnover of employees, I'm sure, and also the availability of employees, particularly when the unemployment rate is so high, would be so easy that, unless they take some sort of really big PR hit, what is the point of them not doing it? Unless of course there's some sort of legal action that could be taken against them. So,
well, one of our guests, Adam Zimmerman, who was supposed to be on this week, who does unemployment, it's interesting because there's a huge difference between sort of balancing the lack of or the lowering of one's paycheck, the decline of one's paycheck, with collecting the equivalent of unemployment, letting an employee go and then collecting unemployment, and then this variation, which is you're getting money from a third party that has nothing to do with me. I haven't affected your pay, but I'm going to let that check affect your pay. And that's something we haven't encountered yet.
It's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, it is.
It's a shitty thing to do.
Gideon, is that a COVID-approved beard, by the way? I only noticed it as you were stroking it because you were doing two anti-COVID things, which were, number one, you were touching your face, and number two, you're fully bearded. Adam and I have gone down to the 5 o'clock shadow, as you can see.
One's coming back.
I also have a quarantine card game later, as you can tell. The beautiful thing about this whole Zoom thing is that there's no editing. Gideon can't save us. Like, there's no more Gideon saving us from ourselves. So whatever we happen to say or slur is gonna come out and feed the audience.
You've been relatively well behaved, I must admit.
He hasn't violated lawyer-client privilege recently, so.
First of all, this is because I'm treating it like court. I'm just treating it like I'm talking around Nana. I'm talking in court. I mean, those are the only two rules. I just put the filter on, and then we're good to go.
So I did want to touch on one quick story. I have two more topics. One's like super major issue for us because it's near us on the East Coast. But the other one I wanted to touch on, which is an issue that's come up, is COVID chlamydia. Yeah, I mean, make sure if you quarantine with somebody who's clean. No, the French Laundry, which is a famous restaurant in San Francisco, has already filed a lawsuit against their insurance company, the Hartford, establishing that their business interruption policy covers the COVID-related losses. So look, a lot of people, a lot of business owners have what's called business interruption insurance.
Which is an endorsement, which is not part of a general liability
It's
policy.
not part of a general liability policy. It's like a special rider that's going to be covered. One estimate by an association for insurance, property and casualty insurance adjusters association, found that small businesses' potential continuity losses could be 220 to 383 billion per month, which could quickly consume largest claim ever, which would quickly consume the estimated $800 billion in surplus U.S. insurers have available for payouts. If policymakers force insurers to pay for losses that are not covered under existing insurance policies, the stability of the sector could be impacted and could have the effect of ability to impact consumers to address everyday's risks that are not covered by the property casualty insurance industry.
So you're saying insurance companies might actually have to pay the money? Man, what a world.
What a world.
Well,
so the weird part is that sometimes these insurance B&I policies have, it's either business loss or business interruption policies, depending on how you call it. But sometimes they have Act of God provisions in them. Sometimes they don't. In other words, excluding war, terrorism, plague, pestilence. Sometimes they don't.
Coming up on Passover, so it's a great time for this.
So the other interesting component of that, right, is like a lot of people took out terrorism insurance and Act of God insurance after 9/11. So I think we're going to see, and from what I understand, the insurance industry since January, since this started happening in China, and since it became apparent that Congress is selling off all of their stock holdings, that the insurance companies were slipping in riders into people's policies. And so if you didn't pay your premium and then your business got stopped, the question is going to be whether that new contract provision covers. And there's going to be a lot of litigation, and this is going to be decades.
Whether you did pay your premium and they sent you an email to give you notice of the rider or the endorsement, and you didn't realize and you fought it. I mean, that's not even the only issue. I mean, the sad thing is that this is something that Kurt has handled a bunch of times, is the Maryland Insurance Administration. So how many claims are we going to see sent to the Maryland Insurance Administration vis-a-vis the Office of Administrative Hearings, where you're looking for bad faith claims, where you're looking for, which are essentially denials, wrongful or not, of paying insurance. But every restaurant, think about every business, every restaurant you've ever been to right now has a business interruption claim, and most of the large ones have been business interruption insurance. So you have to imagine the scope of that litigation is unlike anything we've seen. And we've been through like Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Andrew out in Florida, which was, these things topped 100 billion. So when
1 month of this is easily going to dwarf that.
Yeah, because it's every social business, every restaurant, bar. I mean, it's really unbelievable. I asked my neighbor today, he has Caps tickets. What are you going to do? But it's every season ticket holder for every major sport. And then the owners of that organization filing for business. And if you think they got lawyers,
it's funny, I talked to one of our
better than me and better than you.
I talked to one of my friends the other day about this, and he goes, man, I'm just girding for the tidal wave because he does a lot of business litigation. He goes, I'm just waiting for the tidal wave, baby. Like, lawyers are going to win here, and he represents a lot of business owners, and it's just going to be waves and waves and waves of litigation for years.
But then you have to wonder, are the insurance companies going to be able to bail themselves out? because who are they insured by?
Or a better question is going to be, is the government going to come in and say, look, we're setting up a fund. This is what it is.
Like the vaccine fund. Yes.
Right.
The government has a vaccine fund that the DOJ monitors. For instance.
Listener Steve Adam wants to know if you can provide proof of life as to your whereabouts for your hostage situation that you're currently in.
Ahora mismo está audibles.
He wants to know, are you?
I'm on to my second Truly. Is that proof?
Only if it's lime. Only if it's lime.
You got banned for drinking not lime.
If Adam had a gun right now, I'd be genuinely worried about our law practice.
So, fellas, the last one I had to talk about today, and I know I sent it to you guys or I texted it to you guys. Rhode Island told all New Yorkers to stay the fuck home.
Yes. Live free or die hard, right?
Right.
That Die Hard 5.
So Rhode Island state troopers and National Guard members began actively stopping any passenger vehicle with New York license plates on Friday after Governor Gina Raimondo ordered anyone traveling from New York to Rhode Island to self-quarantine for 14 days upon arrival. Troopers set up a checkpoint on I-95 in Hope Valley where drivers with New York plates must stop and provide their contact information if they plan on staying in Rhode Island long term. Those who do plan to stay for an extended period of time are ordered to self-quarantine for 14 days before going out in public. Anyone passing through will be allowed to continue their travels.
The only change in that policy is that they started pulling white people with New York plates too.
Dude, do you know how happy those Rhode Island cops are? The Rhode Island cops are to tell fucking New Yorkers to go fuck themselves. Are you kidding me? They're like probably taking unpaid overtime just to sit out there. They're pulling over cars. They were going house to house and door to door. So now it's getting windy out here. It's getting windy, guys.
Not in my basement.
That typhoon litigation is coming.
So what's interesting is the ACLU in this article indicates that under the Fourth Amendment, having a New York state license plate simply does not and cannot constitute probable cause to allow a police officer to stop and interrogate the driver, no matter how laudable the goal may be. And then Raimondo rebuffed the claim and said, pointing out that laws change during a state of emergency and that she's received federal guidance from the Trump administration and legal advice from her administration as she makes these decisions.
It's important.
Don't take legal advice from the Trump administration.
This is also not the only place this is going on. I mean, the Outer Banks got shut down, right? If you live in Manio, for instance, and you vacation Manio, you cannot go to these vacation properties. So Rhode Island is not by any means a singular instance. I mean, a lot of the vacation towns, the Hamptons right now, but if you read the New York Post, for instance, right now, and you listen to you read about what's going on in the Hamptons, you have all these people that went out there, they bought freezers, they bought up all the food. So the people that live out there full time, and I'm not asking anyone to feel sympathetic for people that live in the Hamptons full time, but you have a working population out there that service the rich clientele essentially. And they're talking about grocery stores being empty, everything being empty. And you have a population that's 300, 400 miles from an urban area where you would generally encounter, like where we all live, more grocery stores, more gas stations. So in that respect, I think Rhode Island is sort of pushing back a little bit saying, hold on a second, you're not going to vacation here and empty us out because resources are somewhat limited right now.
Still doesn't change the Fourth Amendment issue.
No, it doesn't, but they can limit. I mean, what you're really talking about is the 14th Amendment, which is the travel. You're not even talking about Fourth. Fourth Amendment would be stopping the vehicles.
Which is what they're doing.
14th Amendment is privileges and immunities, which is your travel clause, which is your ability under the Commerce Clause as applicable to the states. Kurt, you're loving this right now. I've read my law school books. Your ability to travel between states. That's what you're talking about, is you're infringing upon my constitutional rights to travel.
Right. In other words, I'm a citizen of the United States. I can travel freely between the very several states pursuant to the 14th Amendment. I don't disagree with you.
As applied to the 10th Amendment, I can change my
state. So what's weird is
this hat says everything about states' rights.
Adam, what were you going to say?
More so than this one?
No, not at all. I sincerely apologize.
So the spinoff here is where now you have, the administration talking about quarantining certain parts of the country, right? Is that legal? I mean, can Trump say New York, San Francisco, Chicago, wherever he wants, you're under quarantine? Can the federal government do that?
Yeah, what's super interesting about this is about a week ago, I listened to another podcast about what Trump can teach us on con law, and it's a constitutional law podcast. It's fascinating because Trump. It's fascinating because Trump.
One podcast, Kurt.
I know, I'm a podcast.
There can only be one.
But regardless, what they said.
Bruce Leroy on us.
Actually, that was a Highlander quote. Come on, Jeremy.
Yeah,
it can be only one.
You got to do better than that.
I heard one of you guys say it one time.
So the idea is that the states have under the 10th Amendment have the police power. The police power is exclusively reserved to the states under almost every circumstance imaginable. And so the quarantine power within the states, at least as previously interpreted by Supreme Court case law, is exclusively reserved to the states. The quarantine power between the states is reserved to the executive branch. And apparently what my reading and what my reading has shown me about this issue and what this podcast from a con law instructor said was that the president can quarantine individual states. The president has the ability of the purse and can mobilize troops in support of the states, but he cannot authorize a national quarantine. So there can't be like a
interpretive dance during your explanation.
That's what he said.
Right? No, you're right.
Wait, what's a national quarantine?
So the president, got a bee flying around me. The president can't say,
no bees in my basement.
The northeast of the United States is completely on lockdown. Everyone has to stay home. That has to be reserved to the governors. He can say New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania can't travel between the states. You all have to stay put. And then he can use federal troops to authorize and enforce that order. But he can't order those states to stay home because the police power within those states is reserved to the states. So I hate to say it, but like when Governor Cuomo says, well, where was Donald Trump? Where was Donald Trump? It's not really that simple. Now, Donald Trump could have authorized, federal relief and federal supplies and federal troops.
National Guard.
Absolutely. That stuff he could have done. And he can also lock New York inside of New York. But he can't do anything, he can't do anything beyond that, at least if he wants to follow. Now, to be fair, he doesn't necessarily always follow the Constitution. So that's a whole separate issue for like a separate conversation. But at least in this circumstance, he's at least following the Constitution.
What about in terms of, so here's one too. What about in terms of how federal resources are doled out to the states? How much do we have a good understanding of what his authority is constitutionally or even statutorily to pick and choose, like, hey, Michigan, you can have 10,000 ventilators and, whoever can't?
You mean governor he likes and what governor he doesn't like?
It's an election year. It's an election year, and Michigan is a swing state.
And the congressional funding did not help things because the Kennedy Center got funded and then made a donation to the DNC, apparently.
But New York's not going to need all those ventilators anyway, right?
Apparently.
Way to bring us all down, Gideon.
Everybody.
I mean, the funny thing is, and we've now entered into almost an hour, and I've had a couple of drinks, so this is when I just start railing on.
This is the best part of the podcast.
Right?
We were waiting. You're about 5 minutes late. We had a schedule, and you were supposed to be slamming whiskey and already railing about 5 minutes ago.
I'm a little slower to the take on the Trulies,
There's actually a side bet on you, Adam, when you start talking, and it's usually the last 15 minutes you just dominate the podcast.
Yeah. I'm not going to say anything.
Just take the hat off, put the hood on, and just please us all.
No, all I was going to say was, can you imagine? This shit is complicated, right? Like, this is unprecedented. No one alive has been through anything like this before. Nope. And it just so happens that we have the most incompetent fucking hacks in the history of American governance in charge. Like, we are fucked. Truly.
Truly.
First of all, Adam doesn't do puns, so that worries me. Are you okay, buddy?
He wants the ketchup. Would you just fucking pass him the ketchup, please?
Talk, my brother. Talk, my brother. Come to me. I'd like to thank our listener, Katie Mims, for sending me her brother's picture. He just looks so, it's teenage angst. Can't even do it. Like, once you have a kid, you can't even do teenage angst. It's like, seriously, pass the ketchup.
I haven't felt that bad, like, since I was 14.
That's why I feel like it's my album. I'm like, oh.
What are you eating there? It looks delicious. Is that like a big pile of meat and fries?
I think it's burgers. I think we had some grilled burgers. It was somebody's
I'll send
birthday.
you the full picture. There's definitely a burger in there.
Might have been like my sister's birthday. She's got a summer birthday. It could have been her birthday.
It's probably a microwave quesadilla.
That's a tortilla and cheese, man. It's not a microwave quesadilla. It's a tortilla and cheese, and it is a legitimate food item.
Any Texans we have listening to this can explain to me at a later time how you can microwave a quesadilla.
Any Texan will certainly explain that to you. You roll up some fucking cheese in a tortilla, you put some damn hot sauce in it, and you eat that shit. It's a snack.
Okay, first of all, I totally
coming Adam's corner.
Hold on. So we have two comments that are vitally important. As a born and raised Pittsburgher, and I know Gideon outside of Pittsburgh, and I know Gideon will. Yeah, Hunt's ketchup is trash. Truly
garbage.
Oh yeah. It's only Heinz.
Second, our favorite listener wants to know if that's Elena's Easter hat you're wearing.
That's funny on so
courtesy of the Howard County State's Attorney's Office.
That is funny on multiple levels. That's great.
The same size head as me. What I would like to say is the only new client phone call that I got today was someone that got arrested outside of Permane Brothers in Maryland with a kilo of cocaine.
Dude, I mean, if you're trafficking a kilo of cocaine, you got to stop for a good sandwich, man. Just saying.
Is that where you got that hat?
The only problem is all those faraway Permane Brothers extensions aren't getting the like really fresh Mancini bread. It's just not the same.
Yeah. Guys, what do we think about what we're drinking here today, fellas?
I was surprised by this. It drinks a little bit better than I would have expected. It is, as I said at the beginning, so this is the Bruichladdich Port Charlotte heavily peated Islay 10-year Scotch. It's not for the faint of heart. It is strong, but it's surprisingly smooth, and they balance it with a really good sweetness on the front end, so it hits you with like that nice caramel Scotch flavor that you love, but then like the heat and the smoke really just like collide together as you swallow it.
Did you say collide?
Yeah, I did.
Where have you been, Gideon?
This is my
That's
kind of
the longest drink review we've gotten out of Gideon here.
How many did you have, Gideon?
I only, I don't know, maybe like 2.5 ounces or something like that. Not all that much, but
4 kids meals.
And it
so
also it's not as
kids when we're done.
I will, yeah, and it's not as medicinal as you would expect from some of the heavily peated scotches. It's really good.
Jeremy, what about the Ransom, buddy?
I've
your
told
favorite.
you guys for years, it's phenomenal. This is the best gin outside of Aviation. This is okay. It's better than Aviation.
Wait, why is it brown? It's gin. I thought it was a whiskey.
It looks brown. Yeah, I did too.
Old Tom Gin. The Old Tom Gin is historically accurate. I can't even read this whole thing. This thing is amazing.
How long have you been drinking today?
Good luck, Elena.
Only during So there's going to be so much parenting going on right now. It's unbelievable, and it's only.
I mean, yeah, but is it really Monday? Does anybody know what day it is? How long has this been going on? It's the same thing every day.
I'm wearing a fucking island shirt.
And a nacho hat.
Literally, I'm like your bumper sticker for parenting. I went to Ace Hardware 3 times today. 2 of the times I've left stuff there. Like, this is where we are as parents and as consumers. Like, I just need to stay at home and be done, or send me back to court and let me fight for people's rights because I don't know what to do with myself.
Adam, how's the Truly? Truly delicious?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, look, I mean, it is what it is. If you're going to drink as much as I'm going to drink here for the next month, maybe 2 months, you know, I like a good cold beer around this time of the day, especially, you know, when I got nothing else going on. I'm going to drink some wine. I'm going to drink some whiskey. I'm going to drink some gin. I'm going to drink a lot of shit for sure. So I got to mix in the Trulies here and there just so
you get your vitamins.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still trying to, still trying to exercise and work out. I don't want my immune system to be too compromised. So I've got a little citrus here. Good.
Fight the scurvy with your Truly.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep my vitamin C levels high. Kurt, what about you? How's that mule? You got the mule cup and everything, man. You made it official.
I made it official. Don't tell my wife. I hope she's not watching. I did finish the rest of the Absolute Lime, so I may either be deceased or on my way to the liquor store tonight before 8 o'clock.
Or yeah, you should probably go to the liquor store. Don't get Absolute though, man. That's not good. Uh-oh.
Apparently I said that
red-handed. Who's going to get you out of that one, Kurt? You need a lawyer.
Do you need a temporary protective order, Kurt?
I might need a temporary protective order.
Hey, it lasts for a
my
month.
man, so former guest Bruce gives us a shout out though, Adam. If you need a treatment plan, he's got you covered. And we're all good. We're all good. Guys, I think we'll try to do this again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
Friday. Happy Hour Friday this week.
You want to do a happy hour on Friday?
Friday this week with everybody. We'll have a DJ, cupcakes.
Cupcakes?
Eldridge, he's just making shit up. All right, whatever. We'll figure it out.
This Friday.
Catch up.
Go live until we can't go anymore.
Pirate Radio, baby.
So until next time, sit back, relax, pour yourself a drink, enjoy Lawyers on the Rocks.
Oh, man. Are we off?
Right. Yeah, I almost